So they go in there, like, oh, donor, give me money, please. And they say, oh, Jake, you're too angry. Too angry? What? You think, does Donald Trump look like he's kind?
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last.
And in this democracy, the majority has spoken, and they said they don't care that much about democracy. The first time Donald Trump was elected, he started as a joke and ended as a tragedy. This time he starts as a tragedy. Who knows what he'll end as?
Tonight, it was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare, for our climate. It was a terrible night for poor people, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
My fellow Americans and autists who voted for Trump, it's your boy Dank Brandon here. I want to take a moment to congratulate the DNC on losing another election to Donald Trump. You replaced me with a candidate who has the same likability as Greasy, hobo taint and expected to win, and they say I'm the retarded one. The Democrats said that I was too old, that I was too slow, that I was a joke. Well, here's a joke for you. What do Willie Brown and the 2024 presidential election have in common? Kamala Harris blew both of them. I shouldn't have said that. But seriously, I mean, first Hillary loses to Donald and now Kamala. This man has beaten more women than Doug Emhoff. Anyways, congrats on losing to Hitler again. I hope he locked you all up this time. Dank Brandon out.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves, I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad, in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents. This is the world that we very realistically may be entering.
Is this woman ever going to grow up? I mean, seriously, get a grip. She says, we are about to enter a period of fascism and authoritarianism. What, does she think Trump lost? It's really funny how they're trying to say all this about Trump, but it's the Biden-Harris administration that's been trying to prosecute Trump for the last 4 years. And all of a sudden, they've dropped all their charges against him, which is funny. Now, they can't prosecute a sitting US president, but if the case had any substance, you would think they would try to rush to get this through the courts, because they were talking about his sentencing in like a few weeks, and now all of a sudden they're going to drop it all. So yeah, the whole thing sounds like it was a load of BS. Tommy Laram says almost like it was political.
I'll keep it quick. I'll keep it quick and succinct for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So here is what I have to say. I think that people clutched on to their YT fragility. I think to see a highly educated Black woman was really challenging. And we see that with the rhetoric in terms of she's word salad, she's not educated, all of that is really just designed to denigrate Black women, especially highly educated Black women. And I just think it really comes out of that unconscious bias and confirmation bias. I think a lot of YT people for whatever reason, they just refuse to see that racism exists, that misogyny exists, and they want to clutch onto that emotional comfort. And unfortunately is going to be their downfall, I believe. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I will say that, look, it's always always looking for other excuses as well, that it's something other than what it is. Most times, the most obvious answer is the correct answer. And yes, you are right in that. That was a big part of it. I don't believe it was all of it, but we live in a very racist and sexist society. That's God's.
We also forget that we are a 60% on a good year turnout country. There are a lot of people, especially low wealth people. You know, this is the Bishop Barber thing he talks about all the time on our shows, is that poor and low wealth people actually don't vote for the most part. They normally sit it out. And so there's a checking out of the system and saying, I'm not receiving economic benefits. College loan forgiveness doesn't impact me. And so people are actually, in some cases in this country, backing out of voting altogether. So I think there's a tendency to think it's poor people voting against their best interests, when in many cases, poor people aren't voting at all. And so they're just not a part of the system. And so what you have is higher net worth and higher education voters voting versus rural working class voters. But just remember, working class does not mean poor. You can be working class, meaning you're a non-college voter, but you actually have, you know, a second home somewhere in, you know, the Hamptons, and you work in a plumbing business, and you have you're not necessarily poor. So I think we have to be careful in characterizing it as necessarily low-wage people.
See what you just witnessed? That is what coping looks like. Complete denial, completely detached from reality. She's so delusional, even her own hairline is trying to get away from her. I've done a poll today, in fact. Who's more delusional, her or Rachel Maddow? And so far, 74% have said Joy Reid. So well done, at least you won something.
I do see it differently, because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite, who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to, and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they were facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people deserve to be respected and held and talked to. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare, for our climate. It was a terrible night for poor people, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize.
In this democracy, the majority has spoken, and they said they don't care that much about democracy. The first time Donald Trump was elected, he started as a joke and ended as a tragedy. This time he starts as a tragedy. Who knows what he'll end as?
Democratic leaders are simpletons. They're servants of the donor class. So they go in there, they're like, oh, donor, give me money, please. And I made an ad. I'm Kamala Harris. I'm full of joy. Okay, well, what did that get you? And they say, oh, Jake, you're too angry. Too angry? What? You think, does Donald Trump look like he's kind? Does he look like he's in a good mood? I mean, no, people want some sort of reaction from their politicians. They want them to represent them, to fight for them. But that has never occurred to a Democrat outside of Bernie Sanders, and probably we never will. So look, I have no interest in listening to a single Democratic politician ever again. They can go kiss my ass, they can do whatever they want, and we never listen to them anyway, and they hate us because we're right and they're wrong. They're always wrong, and they hate us for being right, okay? So, but they're not gonna learn. You have to beat them in a primary, that's your only hope. And so if you say it's super hard to beat them in a primary because of the lying sons of bitches on mainstream media who will smear you to no end, who will fight harder against progressives and populists than Republicans or Donald Trump or anyone else, well, brothers and sisters, nobody said life was fair. So we gotta go fight that mainstream media. We gotta destroy that mainstream media that is filled with lies on top of lies about how the politicians are so honest and the donors have no control over policy. They have 100% control over policy. Everyone in mainstream media is a liar who goes, oh, well, here's a bill. Well, I'm not gonna talk about the donors at all. Oh, I think they're having an ideological debate. Oh, look at that. The donor class won the ideological debate again, but I won't call them the donor class. I won't tell you that it's corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats that are playing good cop and bad cop against you the entire time. So these Democratic leaders are the most useless people on earth. If they're not all fired, the Democratic Party is out of its mind. So as the voters, you have to understand, those guys have a vested interest in protecting their own ass and protecting their money and their privilege and their status. You need to fire them. They're not gonna fire themselves. You think Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala Harris, and all these people go, oh yeah, I got Jamie Harrison and DNC, oh yeah, I guess we were the problem. You think the Democratic consultant class that have been robbing you blind this entire time is gonna go, oh, I guess we were the problem. No, you have to fire them. So the next time that some son of a bitch on MSNBC or in the Democratic Party tells you, oh no, be a good boy and girl, be civil and vote for Democratic leaders. They know what they're doing. Those are the same goddamn liars that told you that Joe Biden was totally fine, that he was young and he was dynamic behind the scenes, and it wasn't a problem at all. At that point, he was down 8 points nationally. He was getting slaughtered. He was down by 18 in Iowa, and I could go on and on. They've been lying to you the whole time. If you're on the left, you're a Democratic voter. Wakey, wakey. I need to wake you up out of the hypnosis that you're in, that Morning Joe and The View and all of mainstream media has put you in. They're lying to you. Why do you think they keep losing? Do you think they keep telling you how smart they are and how they're gonna deliver you victories? And all they ever do is deliver loss after loss after loss. So Democratic voters, snap out of it. These guys are obvious liars. Fire them all. Fire them all. And if you don't, okay, then keep losing to buffoons, to obvious con men like Donald Trump. Keep losing and losing and losing and never figuring it out. Here, I solved it for you. I figured it out. It's a goddamn corruption. All the stupid donor money, all it's ever done is lead to more losses. So if you don't fire them, you have no one to blame but yourself. Young Turks will be back.
Well, the fact of the matter is the majority of his votes are going to come from whites. And that's who has been talking to all campaign about taking the country back. Taking it back from whom? Taking it back from too many minorities who are doing too well, who are succeeding, who are closing the wealth gap. And something has to be done in his estimation. And so that's what it's really all about. It's not about the economy and all that, people would like to basically hide behind. It's about white versus others.
But it's looking possible tonight that Donald Trump has won the popular vote. Are you saying that the majority of Americans are racist?
I'm saying the majority of the Americans will buy into anything as long as they believe that somehow they will have more advantage, they will have more ownership, that they don't have to worry about others who will be equal to them. You can call it what you want, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, this is Maxine Waters. She's just been re-elected by California to serve as a representative. I can't remember what district. I just want to say, who is voting for her? 86 years old. She wasn't competent when she was in her prime, let alone now.
What is the lesson that your party should have learned?
Well, the Democratic Party worked very hard. And they raised, substantial sum of money. We had great candidates. And so Trump had a following, basically generally led by whites. White males voted in big numbers. He had a few from the other race groups that joined in, like the Latinos at 45%, and black men at about the same rate that they did when they voted for him before, at about 20%. That combination won. And so it is not that Democrats did not work hard, did not do a great job. We had an unusual situation where we had a black woman, which this country has never seen before. A combination of all of those things led to his win.
I will not push back on the idea that race and sex matter in American politics. I think they do. I don't know that it was the controlling variable, and you don't suggest otherwise. To me, it seemed to be that the Democrats thought Trump stinks is enough. And Senator Bernie Sanders said something that reminded me of you, which is why I wanted you on the show tonight, Maxine, which is Democratic Party used to be, we are all about doing for working people. That's what we do. That's what Mario Cuomo's party, that's what Maxine Waters' party was. You are now seen as not that, even by Bernie Sanders.
So I found the funniest prediction from a day before the election. This is hilarious. Check it out.
Okay, so we're closing in on almost 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today. And my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And the women are voting in numbers relative to men that are unbelievable. She's won this. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye.
I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now. You don't know shit. Can we please get an update? I want to know what she has to say now after that massive red wave. He won the presidency, the popular vote, the Senate majority, the House majority, the state governor majority, the state legislator majority. So give us an update. By the way, she's a doctor. Check this out.
Okay, this is Dr. Arlene Unfiltered from TikTok. I'm a former political science professor. I used to teach politics, government, and elections. I've spent 40 years studying this stuff. Okay, for all of you who are freaking out about the polls, you just need to turn the channel, you need to turn the page, you need to swipe away, because these polls that are being reported on TV and across social media are absolute garbage. They mean absolutely nothing, and you've just got a bunch of journalists and content creators churning out all of this polling information, which is not representative of the 150 or 160 million people who are going to vote in this election. None of it represents even the average voter out there. And so you can't put any stock or weight in any of the polling data that the media is talking about, because it doesn't represent anyone other than the person they ask. So for your own sanity right now, just disregard the polls.
Yeah, you spent 40 years studying it and you still can't get it right. I think you might have wasted your time then. Also, Dr. Arlene, if you do see this video, you need to go back to that store and look that guy in the eyes and tell him you're sorry. Here's another funny prediction, which obviously aged like milk. If you think Trump is going to win easy tomorrow because everybody you know is on X is on his side, you've got a rude awakening coming to you tomorrow. The real world ain't X. Well, I guess the real world is X after all.
Okay, so let's keep it together, people. I haven't changed my map. Check it out. I still have Harris as getting 349 electoral votes. It's going to be a landslide. I know a lot of you are sleeping better because we're having discussions and you're starting to realize this is very realistic. I also have people saying not only do they agree with me on Florida, but so many people are telling me to change Texas to blue. I'm going to still leave it at red. Look at how many votes we have to play with. Don't listen to CNN or any of the media. They're just going straight off these weird polls, and they keep saying everyone's neck and neck. No, I think she's going to get Arizona, Nevada, and the blue wall, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Pennsylvania. It's going to be a landslide. I think they're going to call it Tuesday night too. I don't care what Trump plans on doing.
So this guy here, I'm actually going to give him a little bit of respect because he actually came out straight after and made a video and said, you know what, I was wrong.
For them. When I was on the plane the other day with President Trump, we were talking about the Mideast, and he took a piece of paper and he drew on it a map of the Mideast with all the nations on it, which most Americans couldn't do.
No.
And then he wrote in each country the troop strength. And he was particularly looking at the border between Syria and Turkey, and he said, we have 500 men on the border of Syria and Turkey, and a little, encampment that was bombed. And he said, there's 750,000 troops in Turkey, there's 250,000 in Syria. If they go up against each other, we're in the middle. And he said to his generals, what's going to happen to those 500 men? And his general said to him, they're going to be cannon fodder. And he said, get them out. So we want a president who has that knowledge. He's going to ask those rational questions and then is going to make good decisions for the American public.
Make sure I got this right. Trump on the plane the other day drew a map of the Mideast.
He drew a map of the Mideast.
An accurate map.
Yeah, an accurate map of the Mideast.
With troop strength.
Yes, with troop strength in each of the nations. So, I saw that and it reminded me of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And
It's really funny that ever since Biden stepped down, the left-wing media has been attacking Trump saying, oh, he's too old. They never said nothing when Biden was still supposed to be running. But now they want to say, oh, he's too old. He's in cognitive decline. Well, that proves he's not. How sharp have you got to be to do that? Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.